Good afternoon. My name is Matt Rohrback. I'm in Company B3, class of 2014, and this past fall I studied abroad first semester at Northeast Normal University in Changchun, China. And when I came back from China, probably the most frequent question that I was asked by my friends, by my family, by other cadets is, so are we enemies or are we friends with China? And the best answer I could really give is, it depends. And there's a lot. It's a very complex situation. It's not an easy answer to give, and I'd like to share two real quick illustrations. And the first is when I first met perhaps my best friend in China named Tom, where his Chinese name is Yeswen. I thought Tom was from Russia, and I said, "Are you a Russian teacher here teaching Russian?" He said, "No, I'm from China." He's from Xinjiang, which is in the northwest of China. It's a sub-autonomous region that's predominantly the Uyghur minority, and they don't look anything like the traditional Han Chinese. And I went on to learn that Tom has 7 brothers and sisters. He's fluent in Arabic, he's a practicing Muslim, and none of his family or him had been to Beijing, to Shanghai, to these big Chinese cities that we're a little more familiar with. But then I also learned that Tom had taken student loans through the national government to go back, to have his education paid for at this university, but then he'd go back and be a teacher. And Tom kind of had this dual loyalty that he shared, both to his ethnicity and to his culture in Xinjiang, but also to the national government. And that really helped me understand how China is, it's a country that's really struggling with a lot of internal issues and how it finds its identity. And another instance that I like to point out was in late October, another cadet and I were going down to Dalian. We were taking a train to Dalian, which is about a 7-hour train ride from our city. And Dalian literally means the big connection. And for the past few centuries, it's been a very important strategic and economic city for Russia, for China, and for Japan. And I was sitting in our train compartment, and I decided to go outside to stretch my legs, and I looked out through the window, and I saw a picture that tied together really the way that I grasp how China is a country that's really in transition. And so right in the foreground, there are farmers who are bundling up their corn crops into piles that they will use to heat their homes for the winter, and they're using agricultural processes that they use for more than 100 years. But also in the background, there's literally an army of windmills, of giant 200-foot windmills for wind energy that China is really pushing in the Northeast as it seeks to redefine itself economically from a low labor-intensive economy to being one of the leaders in the world in terms of green energy. And over to my right, there's a bullet train track that's going up, and these bullet trains are being pushed out, these tracks are being pushed out from the major cities, and they travel 3 times faster than conventional trains. And I thought just how that train, when it reaches Tom's family, how it reaches all these other corners of China that are so different than the China that I'm familiar with, how that's going to vastly impact their lives. But the big question that I think all of you would have is, so what? So I spent 4 months in China and I saw some great things. What do I bring back to the academy? First and foremost, I'd say academically, as a comparative politics and Chinese major, I've seen direct application to my majors. In terms of Chinese, I bring a new sense of depth into the learning that we have in class. I'm able to provide cultural context for the vocab words we're learning, and having that responsibility as a student and being able to pay that back to my cadets, to my peers, and then to my professor is something I really look forward to. And then also in my comparative politics class this semester, we just finished up our block studying China, which was 3 lessons long. And so we'd read the theories, and the professor would turn to me and he'd say, "Okay, Matt, so how did this marry up to what you saw when you lived in China?" And that was a great way for me to contextualize my experiences. And the final piece, maybe one that I would not have thought about, is in our professional military ethic education classes. And spending a semester in China, and particularly during the election time, when a lot of people would ask me, "Oh, so do you prefer Mitt Romney or Barack Obama? What do you think about these policies?" Being able to express that in the United States, it is a cornerstone of our republic, that the military is subservient to civilian authority, and that's something that we pride ourselves in. Being able to take that and bring that back to the professional military ethic classes, especially because in China, the senior leaders in the People's Liberation Army and Navy are embedded directly within the decision-making apparatus. Being able to relay that to my peers and saying this is something that it's a core principle of our republic and we should be proud of that has been something that's been really worthwhile for me.
I think it's pretty obvious that every student that shares a class with Matt is benefiting from that and his knowledge of a critical, strategic friend, foe, we'll see.